Ambassador Sarah Chun stared at the holographic display showing the Zephyrian fleet. 300 massive ships hung in space like angry metal wasps, their weapons charged and ready. The alien vessels had appeared at Earth's edge 3 days ago, demanding immediate surrender or total annihilation. "They want an answer in 6 hours, Admiral Torres said, his weathered face grim. "Either we sign their peace treaty or they turn Earth into space dust." Sarah nodded, studying the alien text scrolling across her tablet. The Zephyrian Empire had conquered 47 star systems in the past century. Their pattern was always the same: arrive with overwhelming force, demand submission, then strip the planet of resources while enslaving the population. No species had ever successfully resisted them. "What do we know about their technology?" she asked Dr. Martinez, the lead xenobiologist. "Their ships are powered by something they call quantum cores," Martinez replied nervously. "Each core generates enough energy to power a small city. Their weapons can crack continents, and their shields can withstand nuclear bombardment. Frankly, Ambassador, we're outmatched by several centuries of technological advancement." The war room fell silent. Everyone knew the truth. Humanity had barely reached other star systems. Their most advanced weapons were like throwing rocks at tanks compared to Zephyrian firepower. Earth's entire military couldn't scratch one of their battleships. "Sir, incoming transmission from the Zephyrian flagship," the communications officer announced. The main screen flickered, revealing a tall reptilian figure with silver scales and 6 arms. Its yellow eyes gleamed with predatory intelligence. This was Commander Vexhai, leader of the invasion force. "Humans," Vexhai's voice was like grinding metal. "You have 4 hours remaining. Will you sign the submission accord, or shall we demonstrate why resistance is futile?" Sarah stepped forward. "Commander, we need more time to consider your terms." Vexhai's mouth twisted into what might have been a smile, revealing rows of sharp teeth. "Time is a luxury you cannot afford. Your species is primitive, barely capable of interstellar travel. Accept your fate with dignity, and some of you may survive as workers in our mining colonies. And if we refuse, then Earth becomes another dead rock in space, and we take what we need from your corpse worlds." The transmission ended, leaving the room in heavy silence. Sarah looked around at the faces of Earth's leadership. President Williams sat with his head in his hands. The military commanders studied tactical displays that showed nothing but impossible odds. "There has to be something," General Morrison said desperately. "Some weakness we can exploit." Dr. Martinez shook his head. "I've analyzed every piece of data we have. Their technology is simply too advanced. Their quantum cores alone represent physics we barely understand." Sarah frowned. Something nagged at her about those quantum cores. "Doctor, you said each ship has one of these cores?" "Yes, that's what our sensors indicate. Massive energy signatures at the center of each vessel." "And they power everything? Weapons, shields, life support?" "Correct. It's actually remarkably efficient. One core handles all ship functions." Sarah's mind raced. "Efficient, but potentially vulnerable. What happens if a quantum core fails?" Martinez consulted his tablet. "Unknown. But given the energy levels involved, any failure would likely be catastrophic. The energy release alone could destroy the ship and anything nearby. How nearby? Hard to say. Could be several kilometers, maybe more." Admiral Torres looked up sharply. "You're thinking about causing a cascade failure?" "I'm thinking about survival," Sarah replied. "If we sign this treaty, humanity dies slowly. If we fight conventionally, humanity dies quickly. But if there's a third option?" President Williams raised his head. "What are you proposing?" Sarah walked to the tactical display showing the Zephyrian fleet formation. The ships were arranged in tight groups, maximizing their defensive capabilities while maintaining overlapping fields of fire. "We signed their treaty," she said quietly. "What?" General Morrison exploded. "We're talking about surrender." "No," Sarah continued, her voice steady. "We're talking about getting close enough to study their technology, about learning their weaknesses from the inside." Dr. Martinez caught on first. A Trojan horse strategy. Appear to surrender while gathering intelligence. Exactly. But not just intelligence. We need to find a way to turn their greatest strength against them. Admiral Torres studied the fleet display. Those quantum cores. If we could somehow destabilize one, the energy release might trigger failures in nearby cores, Sarah finished. Chain reaction through their entire fleet. That's incredibly dangerous, Martinez warned. We're talking about forces that could potentially crack planets. And if it doesn't work? President Williams asked. Sarah met his gaze. Then we die fighting instead of kneeling. The room erupted in debate. Some argued for conventional resistance, others for genuine surrender. But Sarah knew they had no real choice. Humanity's only chance lay in appearing weak while secretly preparing to turn the enemy's power against them. There's something else, she said, raising her voice above the arguments. Something we haven't discussed, the room quieted. Why are they offering terms at all? Every other species they've conquered was simply destroyed. Why give us the option to surrender? Admiral Torres frowned. What do you mean? Think about it. They have overwhelming firepower. They could have wiped us out the moment they arrived. Instead, they're giving us time to consider, offering us a chance to live as slaves. That's not their usual pattern. Dr. Martinez accessed his files. She's right. In every previous conquest, the Zephyrians simply attacked. No negotiations, no terms, no mercy. This is different. Which means they want something specific from us, Sarah concluded. Something they can't get from a dead world. But what? President Williams asked. Sarah stared at the alien fleet display. I don't know, but I intend to find out. And when I do, that knowledge might be the key to their destruction. The clock showed 2 hours remaining until the deadline. Around the table, Earth's leaders faced the most crucial decision in human history. Sign a treaty that would doom their species to slavery, or risk everything on a desperate gamble that might save them all. Sarah began drafting humanity's response, knowing that their words would either buy them time to find salvation or seal their fate forever. The Zephyrians expected submission. Instead, they would get something far more dangerous, humans who appeared defeated. While secretly planning revolution, the peace treaty would be signed. But both sides knew it would fail. The question was whether humanity would discover the truth behind the Zephyrians, an unusual offer before their hidden plan could unfold. The ceremony took place aboard the Zephyrian flagship, a massive vessel that could have housed a small city. Ambassador Sarah Chun walked through corridors lined with dark metal and pulsing energy conduits, flanked by 2 towering alien guards. Their reptilian faces showed no emotion as they escorted her to the command chamber. Commander Vex High waited on a raised platform, the submission documents floating in holographic display before him. Behind him, a massive viewport showed Earth hanging in space like a blue marble, beautiful and vulnerable. Ambassador Chun, Vex High's voice echoed through the chamber. Are you prepared to sign the submission accord on behalf of your species? Sarah stepped forward, her diplomatic training keeping her voice steady. Yes, Commander. Humanity accepts the terms of surrender. She touched the holographic interface, her biometric signature sealing Earth's fate. The document glowed briefly, then disappeared into the ship's databanks. Excellent, Vex High said, but Sarah noticed something odd in his tone. Relief? Satisfaction beyond simple conquest? Your people will be relocated to designated work colonies within the month. Resistance will not be tolerated. I understand, Sarah replied. However, as stated in the accord, I request permission to oversee the transition process. My people will need guidance to adapt to their new circumstances. This was the crucial moment. Sarah had insisted on including oversight provisions in the treaty, claiming it would reduce resistance and improve cooperation. In truth, it was her only chance to study Zephyrian technology from within their own ships. Vex High considered her request. Very well. You will be assigned quarters aboard this vessel. Your movements will be restricted, but you may observe the relocation procedures. As Sarah was led away, she noticed something that chilled her blood. The aliens weren't celebrating their victory. Instead, there was tension in the air, hurried conversations in their hissing language, and a sense of barely controlled panic. Her quarters were Spartan but functional, with a small viewport overlooking Earth. As night fell on the planet below, Sarah activated a concealed recording device and began documenting everything she observed. The ship's corridors buzzed with activity. Zephyrian technicians hurried between stations, their 6 arms working frantically at control panels. Sarah caught fragments of their conversations through her translation device, but the technical terms were largely meaningless. On her second day aboard, she was escorted to observe the processing of human populations. What she saw horrified her. Massive transport ships descended on Earth's major cities, using some kind of energy field to lift millions of people into the air like insects caught in amber. Fascinating technology, she commented to her guard, hoping to learn something useful. The alien, a younger officer named Krikstal, seemed eager to impress. Gravitational manipulation field? Very advanced. Your species lacks the mathematical understanding to comprehend it. How does it work? Sarah asked innocently. Krikstal puffed up with pride. The quantum cores generate dimensional distortions that affect local space-time curvature. Simple physics, really? Simple for them, perhaps, but Sarah caught the key point. The quantum cores were connected to dimensional manipulation. This suggested the technology was even more dangerous than they'd suspected. Over the following days, Sarah mapped the ship's layout during her observation tours. She identified the location of the quantum core, deep in the ship's center, heavily shielded and guarded. But more importantly, she began to notice patterns in Zephyrian behavior. They were afraid, not of humans, certainly, but of something. Sarah saw it in the way they constantly monitored their sensor arrays, the nervous conversations that stopped when humans were present, and the way Vexhia's eyes sometimes darted toward empty space as if expecting something to emerge from the darkness. Her breakthrough came on the 5th day. While being escorted past a maintenance bay, she overheard 2 technicians arguing in their native language. Her translation device caught most of it. Energy. Readings are still increasing. Told you we should have waited longer. The devourers will sense it. Soon, maintain radio silence. Until the harvest is complete, devourers. The word sent ice through Sarah's veins. Who or what were the devourers, and why were the Zephyrians so terrified of them? That evening, she managed to access a data terminal while her guard was distracted. The ship's database was heavily encrypted, but diplomatic protocols had given her limited access to historical records. What she found changed everything. The Zephyrian Empire wasn't an expanding power seeking conquest. They were refugees for the past 3 centuries. Something called the Devourer Swarm had been systematically destroying civilizations across the galaxy. The Zephyrians had fled from system to system, barely staying ahead of the advancing terror. Their conquests weren't about empire building, they were about harvesting resources and population before the Devourers arrived. And Earth was next. Sarah's hands trembled as she read the reports. The Devourers were described as machines of incomprehensible origin and purpose. They consumed everything. Planets, stars, even space itself seemed to wither in their presence. No weapon had ever damaged them, no defense had ever slowed them, but the most terrifying revelation was yet to come. The quantum cores that powered Zephyrian technology weren't just energy sources. They were dimensional anchors, preventing reality itself from unraveling in the wake of Devourer passage. Without them, entire star systems would collapse into nothingness. The Zephyrians were using Earth's population as a massive workforce to build more quantum cores, desperately trying to outrun extinction. Humanity wasn't being conquered. They were being conscripted into a losing war against the end of everything. Sarah closed the files and sat back, her mind reeling. The peace treaty had never been about submission. It was about survival. The Zephyrians needed human ingenuity and adaptability to help them build defenses against an enemy that had already killed countless civilizations. But there was something else in the data, something that gave her hope. The Devourers had one weakness. They were attracted to quantum energy signatures. The more cores a civilization built, the faster the Devourers found them. The Zephyrians were caught in a deadly paradox. They needed quantum cores to survive Devourer attacks, but using them only hastened their discovery by the enemy. They were running out of places to hide, and Earth was their last desperate refuge. As Sarah stared out at her home planet, she realized the truth was indeed too dangerous to reveal. If humanity learned they were doomed regardless of the peace treaty, panic would consume the world. But if they could somehow turn this knowledge into a weapon. The next morning, Commander Vexhai summoned her to his chambers. His yellow eyes studied her carefully, and Sarah wondered if he suspected her midnight activities. "Ambassador," he said slowly, "I believe it is time we discussed the true nature of our relationship with your species." Sarah's heart raced, but she kept her expression neutral. "I'm listening, Commander." Vexhai activated a holographic display showing the galaxy. Large sections were marked in red, dead zones where nothing remained. The red was spreading like a cancer across the star map. "Your people are not our subjects, Ambassador Chung. They are our partners in a fight for survival that we are slowly losing." The revelation hung between them like a live wire. Sarah realized this was the moment everything would change. The question was whether humanity would rise to face the ultimate challenge or crumble under the weight of cosmic horror. "Tell me everything," she whispered. Commander Vexhai's chambers dimmed as he began the most important briefing in human history. Holographic displays showed the galaxy as it had been 300 years ago, bright, vibrant, filled with countless civilizations. Then the images changed, showing system after system going dark. "The Devourers appeared first in the Andromeda Galaxy," Vexhai explained, his voice heavy with ancient grief. "By the time we detected them, half of our neighboring galaxy had already been consumed. We thought distance would protect us. We were wrong." Sarah watched in horror as the simulation showed dark tendrils spreading across space, swallowing stars like a cosmic plague. "What exactly are they?" "We do not know their origin or purpose," Vexhai admitted. "They appear to be machines, but their technology operates on principles we cannot comprehend. They convert matter and energy into something else, something that should not exist in our universe." The display showed a Devourer ship, if it could be called a ship. It looked like a writhing mass of liquid shadow given form, constantly shifting and pulsing with alien geometries that hurt to look at. "They began their advance into our galaxy 50 years ago," Vexhai continued. "The Karathi Empire fell first. 7 billion souls, gone in a matter of hours. Their planets didn't just die, they were unmade, as if they had never existed." Sarah felt sick. "And you've been running ever since?" "Running and fighting and dying," Vexhai confirmed. "We have learned some things. The Devourers are attracted to quantum energy signatures. The more advanced a civilization, the more likely they are to be targeted early. This is why we have been selective in our conquests. You've been targeting less advanced species because they're beneath the Devourer's notice." "Precisely. But also because less advanced minds sometimes see solutions that we cannot. Desperation breeds innovation, Ambassador Chun. Your species may be primitive, but you think differently than we do." Sarah studied the star map, noting how the Zephyrian Empire formed a meandering trail through space rather than expanding outward from a central point. They really were refugees, gathering resources and allies while fleeing an unstoppable enemy. "Why didn't you tell us the truth from the beginning?" she asked. Vexhai's reptilian features showed what might have been regret. "Because the truth breaks species, Ambassador. We have seen it happen. The knowledge that extinction is inevitable, that all efforts are ultimately futile, it destroys the will to fight. Better to maintain the illusion of conquest while preparing for the real war. How long do we have?" "Based on their current rate of advance, the Devourers will reach Earth's sector within 18 months. Perhaps 24 if we are fortunate." 2 years. Sarah's mind raced through the implications. Even if every human on Earth worked around the clock, they couldn't possibly build enough defenses to matter. Unless You mentioned that human thinking might offer new solutions, she said carefully. What kind of solutions are you looking for? Vexhai activated another display, this one showing quantum core schematics. Our strategy has been to build more cores, faster ships, better weapons. But every advance only hastens our detection. We are trapped in a cycle of technological escalation that we cannot win. Sarah studied the core designs. They were incredibly sophisticated, operating on mathematical principles that would take human scientists decades to understand. But sometimes the most complex problems had simple solutions. What if you're approaching this backwards? She said suddenly. Explain. You're trying to outrun them with technology, but that technology is what attracts them in the first place. What if instead of building more cores, you built fewer? What if you powered down? Vexhai's eyes widened. Impossible. Without quantum cores, our ships cannot function. Our weapons would be useless. We would be defenseless, not defenseless, hidden. Sarah began pacing, her diplomatic training giving way to pure human ingenuity. You've been thinking like prey, trying to run faster than the predator. But sometimes the best strategy isn't to outrun danger, it's to become invisible to it. She called up the galactic display and pointed to the areas already consumed by the devourers. Look at the pattern. They hit high-technology civilizations first, then move to moderately advanced species, then finally consume everything else. But what if there was nothing else to consume? What if civilizations could temporarily regress to a pre-technological state? Voluntary primitivism? Vexhai sounded skeptical. Even if possible, it would take generations to rebuild once the danger passed. Not if you planned for it. Cache your technology, hide your knowledge, train your people to restart civilization quickly when it's safe. The Devourers passed through a system in months, not decades. Vexhai was silent for a long moment, his alien mind grappling with the concept. It is ... audacious, but the logistics would be staggering. How do you hide the infrastructure of an entire civilization? Sarah smiled. You don't hide it. You bury it. Earth has something your previous allies didn't, a species that spent millions of years living underground, in caves, surviving ice ages and disasters by going low-tech when necessary. We know how to regress gracefully and recover quickly. But the quantum cores are necessary for dimensional stability. Without them, space-time itself becomes unstable in Devour-affected regions. Then you don't shut them all down. You build a minimal network, just enough to maintain stability, but not enough to attract attention. Think of it as an immune system rather than a shield wall. Vexhai activated his personal communication device and began speaking rapidly in the Zephyrian language. Within minutes, other officers began arriving in the chamber. Sarah recognized several high-ranking officials and what appeared to be chief scientists. The debate that followed was intense. Conducted mostly in Zephyrian, but punctuated by human mathematical concepts as Sarah tried to explain her ideas. She found herself drawing diagrams and calculations, proposing modifications to quantum core networks. That would make them nearly invisible to Devourer sensors while maintaining minimal functionality. The human proposes distributed microcores instead of centralized megacores. One of the scientists explained to the others. Each unit operating at minimum power, networked together for stability but individually undetectable. Another scientist objected. The power requirements for our fleet would necessitate thousands of microcores. The manufacturing time alone. What if you didn't need the fleet? Sarah interrupted. What if your entire strategy changed from mobile resistance to static survival? Earth has vast underground networks, natural caves, abandoned mines, subway systems. We could hide entire populations along with critical technology. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Vexhai spoke slowly, as if afraid to voice the possibility aloud. You're suggesting that we abandon ship-based civilization entirely, ground ourselves permanently, and hope the Devourers pass us by. Not permanently, Sarah corrected. Temporarily. Long enough for them to move on to other targets, then emerge and rebuild. It's not surrender, it's strategic hibernation. Chief Science Officer Zixara leaned forward, her silver scales shimmering with excitement. The mathematics are intriguing. If we could reduce our quantum signature by 90% while maintaining dimensional stability, the Devourers might not detect us at all. Vexai finished. But the risks are enormous. If the plan fails, we lose everything. Our ships, our mobility, our ability to flee. Sarah met his gaze steadily. Commander, you're already losing everything. At least this way, we choose how we make our stand. The debate continued for hours. Technical challenges were raised and addressed. Resource requirements were calculated and recalculated. But slowly a consensus began to emerge. The plan was insane, desperate, and completely contrary to everything the Zephyrians had tried before. It might actually work. As the meeting broke up, Vexai approached Sarah privately. If we pursue this course, there will be no going back. Your entire species will need to commit to underground survival for potentially years. Many will die. Others will lose their minds to the confinement. Are you certain humanity can endure such a trial? Sarah thought of Earth's history, the London Blitz, the siege of Leningrad, countless other examples of human endurance in the face of impossible odds. Commander, underestimating human stubbornness has been the downfall of many enemies. If there's one thing we're good at, it's surviving when we shouldn't be able to. Vexai's mandibles clicked in what she had learned was amusement. Then perhaps together we can achieve the impossible survival against the Devourers. But as Sarah returned to her quarters that night, she knew the hardest part was yet to come. Convincing the Zephyrians was one thing. Convincing 8 billion humans to voluntarily enter a new dark age was another challenge entirely. The emergency session of the United Nations had never seen anything like it. Representatives from every nation on Earth gathered in the assembly hall, while outside, Zephyrian ships hung motionless in the sky like metal thunderclouds. The truth Sarah had brought back from the flagship had spread through the world's leadership like wildfire, leaving behind shock, disbelief, and growing panic. Secretary General Martinez stood at the podium, her face grave as she addressed the packed chamber. Ladies and gentlemen, we face an unprecedented crisis. Ambassador Chun has brought us intelligence that changes everything we thought we knew about our situation. Sarah took the podium, looking out at faces that represented every nation and culture on Earth. Behind her, holographic displays showed the advancing Devourer threat across the galaxy. The red zones had grown larger even in the past week. The enemy approaching our sector isn't just another aggressive species, she began. They are something that shouldn't exist in our universe. The Zephyrians call them Devourers, and they have already consumed half the galaxy. Every attempt to fight them conventionally has failed. Murmurs of disbelief rippled through the assembly. The Chinese representative stood first. Ambassador Chun, you're asking us to believe that these Zephyrians, who threatened to destroy us days ago, are now our allies against an even greater threat? I'm asking you to look at the evidence, Sarah replied, activating the displays. The Zephyrian Empire isn't an empire at all. It's a refugee convoy fleeing for their lives. They've been moving from system to system for 3 centuries, gathering resources and allies for a war they're losing. The Brazilian representative raised her hand. Even if we accept this, what can we possibly do? Our technology is primitive compared to theirs. That's exactly why we might succeed where they've failed, Sarah said. The Devourers target civilizations based on their quantum energy signatures. The more advanced the technology, the more attractive the target. Our plan is to do something no other species has tried deliberately. Regress to pre-industrial technology while maintaining hidden infrastructure. The Russian delegate looked skeptical. You're talking about abandoning our cities, our way of life, everything we've built? Temporarily, Sarah emphasized. We would relocate populations to underground facilities, natural caves, old mining networks, subway systems. We'd use minimal technology powered by micro-quantum cores that are almost undetectable. Think of it as the ultimate fallout shelter. President Williams, attending virtually from Washington, spoke up. What you're describing sounds like sending humanity back to the Stone Age. How do we know the devourers will pass us by? Chief Science Officer Zixara, who had been granted permission to address the assembly, activated her translation device. Honored representatives, in 300 years of study, we have identified only one pattern in devourer behavior. They are attracted to quantum energy sources above a certain threshold. Below that threshold, they appear to ignore smaller civilizations entirely. Appear to? The German representative pressed. You're not certain? Nothing about the devourers is certain, Zixara admitted. But the alternative is guaranteed extinction within 2 years. Your choice is between possible survival through adaptation or certain death through conventional resistance. The French delegate stood. Assuming we agree to this insane plan, what exactly are you asking us to do? Sarah activated a new display showing Earth's geological survey data. We've identified 12,000 viable underground sites capable of housing significant populations. Natural cave systems, abandoned mines, even repurposed subway networks in major cities. Each site would be connected by a low-power quantum communication network and supplied with basic necessities. For how long? Asked the Indian representative. Based on devourer movement patterns, 18 months to 3 years. Vexhaya's voice echoed through the chamber's speakers. The Zephyrin commander was participating remotely from orbit. Once they have moved beyond this sector, we can begin rebuilding on the surface. The Japanese delegate looked troubled. The psychological impact of confining billions of people underground for years would be catastrophic. We're talking about the largest refugee crisis in human history. With respect, Sarah replied. The alternative is no refugees at all because there won't be any survivors. General Morrison, joining from the Pentagon, outlined the military aspects. We've run preliminary logistics calculations. Moving 8 billion people underground within 12 months is technically possible, but it would require unprecedented global cooperation. Every nation would need to contribute resources and infrastructure. What about the Zephyrian fleet? Asked the Canadian representative. Surely their ships alone would attract these devourers. Commander Vexhai explained through the speakers. Our ships will leave Earth system once the underground network is established. We will take our quantum signatures far from here, hoping to draw devourer attention away from your world. That's suicide, Sarah said quietly. Perhaps. But if your plan works, it may be the first real victory against the devourers in centuries. Worth the risk of a few thousand lives to potentially save billions. The chamber fell silent as the magnitude of the sacrifice sank in. These beings who had threatened Earth days ago were now offering to die to protect it. Dr. Elena Vasquez from the CDC stood to address the health implications. Even if we can house everyone safely, the psychological trauma will be immense. Depression, suicide rates, violence-confined populations historically don't do well long-term. Then we don't confine them, Sarah said, bringing up new displays. We create underground cities, not prisons. Gardens with artificial sunlight, recreational areas, schools, workshops. We maintain as much normal life as possible while staying hidden. An aide whispered something to Secretary General Martinez, who looked up sharply. I'm receiving reports that Zephyrian engineering teams are already surveying cave systems in several countries. Are you moving forward with this plan regardless of our decision? Vexhaya's tone became urgent. Ambassador Chun showed them the latest sensor readings. Sarah's blood went cold as she activated the deep space monitors. At the edge of the display, barely detectable, was a growing dark smudge. It wasn't much, just a slight distortion in the background radiation. But it was moving toward their sector of space. Advanced scouts, Zixara explained. The main force is still 18 months away, but devourer reconnaissance elements have entered our region. We have perhaps 8 months to complete preparations before they begin systematic scanning of local systems. Panic erupted in the assembly hall. Representatives shouted questions and demands, their voices echoing off the walls. Sarah had to call for order several times before the chaos subsided. We don't have time for extended debate, she said firmly. Every day we delay is a day lost to preparation. I'm asking for an immediate vote on the survival protocol. This is madness, the British representative protested. You're asking us to gamble our entire civilization on an untested theory. No, Sarah corrected. I'm asking you to choose between a small chance of survival and the certainty of extinction. The vote was closer than she'd expected. Some nations abstained, others voted against what they saw as collective suicide. But in the end, 112 countries agreed to begin immediate preparation for the greatest underground migration in human history. As the assembly dispersed, Sarah remained at the podium, staring at the monitor showing the approaching scouts. 8 months to move 8 billion people underground. 8 months to hide an entire civilization. 8 months to prepare for an enemy that had already destroyed half the galaxy. Ambassador, Vexhia's voice came through her personal communicator. The Zephyrian Council has approved full resource sharing for the survival protocol. Our engineers and your scientists will work together to make this possible. Thank you, Commander. Though I have to ask, are you sure this will work? There was a long pause before Vexhi responded. I am sure that if it doesn't work, the alternative is too terrible to contemplate. Sometimes, Ambassador Chun, faith is all we have left. As Sarah left the assembly hall, she looked up at the sky where Zephyrian ships waited like guardian angels. In 8 months, those ships would be gone, taking their quantum signatures far from Earth in a desperate attempt to lead the Devourers away. Humanity would be alone in the dark, hiding in holes in the ground, waiting for cosmic horrors to pass overhead. But they would be alive. And sometimes survival was the greatest victory of all. 7 months had passed since the emergency UN session, and Earth was transforming in ways no one could have imagined. From orbit, the planet looked like an anthill. That had been disturbed streams of people and equipment, moving along predetermined routes to underground. Sites across every continent. Sarah stood in the control center of what had once been Mammoth Cave in Kentucky, now designated as North American Deep Site, Alpha. The natural limestone caverns had been expanded and reinforced with Zephyrian technology, creating a subterranean city capable of housing 500,000 people. Population transfer is at 87% completion globally, reported Dr. Jennifer Walsh, the site's logistics coordinator. Most major population centers have been successfully relocated to underground facilities. The transformation had been staggering to witness. Cities that had stood for centuries were being systematically abandoned, their populations moved to carefully prepared underground networks. Essential infrastructure had been relocated or rebuilt in hidden facilities powered by nearly undetectable microquantum cores. What's the status of the quantum signature reduction? Sarah asked. Chief Engineer Kovic, a Zephyrian who had volunteered to remain behind, checked his readings. Surface quantum emissions are down 94% from pre-protocol levels. The microcore network is functioning within acceptable parameters. Sarah nodded, but worry gnawed at her. The plan was working technically, but the human cost was enormous. Depression rates in the underground facilities were spiking. 3 suicide clusters had already occurred, and reports of violence were increasing daily. "Ma'am," called Tommy Rodriguez, a young communications officer, "we're receiving Priority 1 transmission from Commander Vexhi." The main display activated, showing Vexhi aboard his flagship. Behind him, Sarah could see the organized chaos of a ship preparing for departure. The Zephyrian fleet had been reduced to essential vessels. Only most of their ships had already departed to establish decoy signatures in distant systems. "Ambassador Chun," Vexhi began, "our long-range sensors have detected significant devourer activity in the Proxima Centauri region. Advanced scouts are conducting systematic sweeps of inhabited systems. We estimate they will reach Earth sector within 6 weeks. 6 weeks. Sarah felt ice in her stomach. Are we ready, Commander? As ready as we can be. The remaining Zephyrian fleet will depart in 72 hours. We will establish false quantum signatures in the Tau Ceti system, approximately 11 light-years from Earth. If the Devourers follow our trail, you'll buy us time by sacrificing yourselves, Sarah finished. Vexhia's mandibles clicked grimly. A few thousand Zephyrians for 8 billion humans and the possibility of future resistance against the Devourers. The mathematics are simple. Commander, there's something you should know, Sarah said. The underground facilities are experiencing significant psychological stress. We may lose a substantial portion of our population to despair before the devourers even arrive. Anticipated, Vexhai replied. We factored psychological casualties into our projections. Humans are remarkably resilient, but this trial would break any species. The question is whether enough will survive to rebuild. After the transmission ended, Sarah walked through the main cavern of Site Alpha. Bioluminescent panels provided gentle lighting that mimicked natural sunlight cycles. Families huddled in assigned living spaces, many looking shell-shocked by the rapid changes to their lives. Children played in artificial parks created within the cave system, but their laughter had a hollow quality that broke Sarah's heart. She stopped at the memorial wall section of cavern, where people had carved names of those who hadn't made it to the underground facilities. Some had refused to leave their homes. Others had died in the massive logistics operation. Too many had taken their own lives rather than face years in the depths. It's not working, is it? Sarah turned to find Dr. Marcus Webb, the site's chief psychologist. His face showed the strain of the past months. The plan is working, she replied carefully. Population transfers are nearly complete. Quantum signatures are minimal. That's not what I mean, and you know it, Webb interrupted. The technical aspects are fine, but we're losing people every day. Yesterday alone, we had 12 attempted suicides and 3 successful ones. The depression rates are catastrophic. Sarah sighed. This was the problem she'd feared most. What do you recommend, Doctor? People need purpose, Webb said. Right now, they feel like they're just waiting to die in a hole. We need to give them something to work toward, something that makes this sacrifice meaningful. Such as? Webb activated a tablet showing psychological profiles from across the global underground network. The facilities that are doing best are the ones where people are actively contributing to the survival effort. Site Gamma in Australia has people manufacturing equipment. Site Beta in Norway has a research division working on improved life support systems. People need to feel useful. Sarah studied the data. Webb was right, the suicide rates were dramatically lower in facilities where people had meaningful work. What about the other sites? We need to give everyone a job, a mission, a reason to keep going, and we need to prepare them for what comes after the devourers pass. As if summoned by their conversation, alarms began sounding throughout the facility. Sarah and Webb rushed to the command center, where Tommy Rodriguez was coordinating with other underground sites. What's happening? Sarah demanded. Multiple contacts on deep space sensors, Tommy reported, his voice tight with fear. Something big just dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. The main display showed sensor readings from hidden monitoring stations scattered across the outer planets. What they revealed defied description. Dark shapes moved through space, their geometry seeming to shift and writhe in ways that hurt to watch. They weren't ships in any conventional sense, they looked more like wounds in reality itself. Devourer scouts, Engineer Kovic confirmed, his reptilian features showing the fear all Zephyrians felt when facing their ancient enemy. 3 vessels conducting systematic sensor sweeps. Sarah felt the weight of 8 billion lives pressing down on her. All their preparation, all their sacrifice came down to this moment. Would the Devourers detect Earth's hidden population, or would the quantum masking protocol work? All sites are reporting minimal emissions, Tommy said, reading status updates from underground facilities worldwide. We're as quiet as we can get. Hours passed in tense silence as the scout ships moved through the solar system. They paused at Mars, conducting intensive scans of the red planet. Then Jupiter, spending long minutes examining the gas giant and its moons. Each pause felt like an eternity to the billions of people watching from hidden bunkers. They're approaching Earth, Kovic whispered. The scouts moved into Earth's orbital zone, their alien sensors sweeping across the planet's surface. For a moment, Sarah was certain they would be discovered. The quantum signature masking was theoretical at best. No one had ever hidden from Devourers before. Then something unexpected happened. The surface monitoring stations detected massive explosions in the Tau Ceti system, 11 light-years away. Vexhi's fleet had engaged the scouts there, creating exactly the kind of quantum signature the Devourers were designed to detect. "The diversion is working," Tommy reported with barely contained excitement. "The scouts are changing course, accelerating toward Tau Ceti." Sarah watched as the alien ships departed Earth's vicinity, drawn away by the sacrifice of the Zephyrian fleet. But she felt no celebration, only grief for the brave beings who had given their lives to protect a species they had barely known. "How long before they return?" she asked. "Unknown," Kovic admitted. "If they find evidence of the deception, they may come back to conduct more thorough scans. We must remain hidden and quiet until the main Devourer force has passed through this region entirely." As alerts came in from underground sites worldwide confirming the scout departure, Sarah addressed the global network. Millions of faces appeared on screens throughout the cave system as she spoke to the hidden remnants of human civilization. "The first test is over," she announced. "The Devourers have passed us by, drawn away by the sacrifice of our Zephyrian allies. But this is just the beginning. We may need to remain hidden for years, building our strength while the galaxy burns around us." She paused, seeing the fear and hope warring in countless faces. "I won't lie to you, the hardest days are ahead of us. Living in darkness, waiting for an enemy we can't fight, watching the stars go out one by one. But we are still here. Humanity survives. And as long as we survive, there is hope." The transmission ended, leaving Sarah alone with her thoughts in the artificial twilight of the underground city. Outside, Earth's surface lay empty under alien stars. But beneath the ground, 8 billion souls waited in the darkness, clinging to the hope that someday they would see the sun again. 3 years had passed since the last human walked on Earth's surface during daylight. In the depths of Site Alpha, Ambassador Sarah Chun stood before a wall of monitors showing feeds from across the global underground network. The image that greeted her was both heartbreaking and inspiring. Humanity had adapted. The underground cities that had once been desperate refugee camps had evolved into thriving communities. Children who had never seen natural sunlight played in artificial parks. Scientists worked in laboratories carved from living rock. Artists painted murals on cavern walls that told the story of the surface world their descendants might someday reclaim. "Population reports are in," announced Dr. Walsh, now showing gray hair and lines around her eyes that spoke of years spent managing impossible logistics. "Global underground population is stable at 7.2 billion. We've lost 800 million souls over the past 3 years, but birth rates are actually increasing in most facilities." Sarah nodded sadly. "The death toll was staggering, but it could have been worse. Much worse. Disease, despair, and accidents had claimed many lives, but humanity endured. More importantly, they were growing stronger." "What's the status of the Devourer advance?" she asked. Chief Engineer Kovic, now the senior Zephyrian representative on Earth, activated the Deep Space Monitoring Network. The displays showed a horrifying sight. Vast swaths of the galaxy had gone completely dark. Stars that had shone for billions of years were simply gone, consumed by an enemy that turned matter itself into nothingness. "The main Devourer force passed through our sector 8 months ago," Kovic reported. 47 star systems consumed, including the Tau Ceti system where Commander Vexhi made his final stand. But they have moved on, following the quantum trail toward the galactic core. Sarah felt the familiar pang of grief for Vexhi and his people. Their sacrifice had bought humanity precious time, but at such a terrible cost. "Any sign they detected our presence?" she asked. "Negative. Our quantum masking remains effective. As far as the Devourers are concerned, Earth is a dead world with no technological civilization." That was the crucial point. For 3 years, humanity had lived like ghosts on their own planet, maintaining the smallest possible technological footprint while building strength in secret. The micro-quantum network that connected their underground cities was virtually undetectable, operating at energy levels so low they barely registered above background radiation. Tommy Rodriguez, Now, the communications director for the global network approached with urgent news. Ma'am, we're receiving a transmission from the Kepler 442 system. It's from surviving Zephyrians. Sarah's heart leaped. Put them through. The main screen flickered, showing a battered Zephyrian vessel against the backdrop of a shattered star system. The ship's commander was someone Sarah didn't recognize, younger than Vexai, with battle scars across his silver scales. This is Sub-Commander Talvex of the Zephyrian resistance vessel Retribution, the alien said through the translation system. We are broadcasting on all frequencies to any surviving civilizations. The Devourer main force has passed beyond the galactic rim, but they have left behind sentinel ships to monitor consumed regions. Sarah stepped forward. Sub-Commander, this is Ambassador Sarah Chun speaking for Earth. We thought you were all gone. Talvex's eyes widened in shock. Earth survived? How is that possible? Our sensors detected no technological signatures in your system. Because there weren't any to detect, Sarah replied with grim satisfaction. We did exactly what we said we would do. We hid. The explanation that followed amazed the young Zephyrian commander. Humanity had not only survived the Devour passage, but had used the time to strengthen their hidden civilization. Underground cities now housed billions of people. Secret factories produced equipment and supplies. Most importantly, human scientists working with captured Zephyrian technology had made breakthroughs that might change everything. Show him the prototype, Sarah said to Dr. Martinez. The head of the clandestine research division, the display switched to a laboratory deep beneath the Australian outback. There, human and Zephyrian, scientists had been working on something that would have been impossible on the surface. Quantum weapon designed specifically to combat Devourer technology. We call it a reality anchor. Dr. Martinez explained. Based on our analysis of Devourer behavior, they operate by destabilizing local spacetime and converting matter to exotic energy. This device creates a localized field of absolute stability. Matter within the field cannot be converted or consumed. Talvex studied the schematics with growing excitement. This could actually work. If we could build enough of these devices, we could turn consumed worlds into fortresses, Sarah finished. Create safe zones where conventional matter can exist even in Devourer-affected space. The implications were staggering. For 3 centuries, the Zephyrians had fought a losing war against an enemy they couldn't hurt. But humanity's unique approach, hiding instead of fighting, studying instead of fleeing, had potentially found the key to victory. There's more, Dr. Martinez continued. Our analysis suggests the Devourers aren't truly alive in any sense we understand. They're more like a universal immune system, triggered by certain types of quantum activity. But if we can mask our signatures permanently, we'd become invisible to them, Talvex breathed. Not just temporarily, but forever. Sarah nodded. The peace treaty the Zephyrians offered us was supposed to fail. Both our species knew it. But it led us to the truth we needed, not how to fight the Devourers, but how to hide from them so completely they forget we exist. Over the following weeks, more Zephyrian survivors emerged from hiding. Small fleets that had scattered across the galaxy began converging on Earth's system, drawn by the impossible news that someone had found a way to survive. Each arrival brought more refugees, more knowledge, and more hope. The surface of Earth remained empty and quiet, but beneath the ground, a new kind of civilization was taking shape. Humans and Zephyrians worked side by side in laboratories and workshops, sharing knowledge and perspectives that neither species could have developed alone. We'll need to remain hidden for at least another decade, Sarah explained to the growing council of survivors. The Devourers left sentinel ships to monitor this region. But we can use that time to perfect our technology and spread it to other hidden survivors across the galaxy. Talvex nodded agreement. My people are natural refugees now. We can carry your stealth technology to others who still hide. Build a network of invisible civilizations. The irony wasn't lost on Sarah. The peace treaty that had seemed like surrender had actually been salvation. By appearing to fail, by forcing humanity underground, It had led them to discover the only way to truly defeat the Devourers, not through superior firepower, but through superior camouflage. As she walked through the thriving, underground city that had once been a desperate hiding place, Sarah marveled at humanity's resilience. Children played games that incorporated both human and Zephyrian traditions. Scientists made discoveries that would reshape galactic civilization. Artists created works that captured the hope of species learning to live as cosmic refugees. The surface world waited above them, empty but not abandoned. Someday, when the Sentinel ships moved on and the galaxy was safe again, humanity would reclaim the sun. But they would never again make the mistake of advertising their presence to cosmic predators. In the deepest chambers of Site Alpha, Sarah found a quiet place to record her final log entry as Earth's ambassador to a universe that had nearly ended. "The Devourers came to consume us," she spoke into the recorder. "Instead, they taught us that survival isn't about being the strongest or the fastest. Sometimes it's about being smart enough to know when to disappear. The peace treaty failed exactly as we knew it would, but its failure saved us all." Above them, Earth's empty cities stood like monuments to a species that had learned the most important lesson in the universe: sometimes the only way to win is to refuse to play the game. And in the darkness beneath the world, 8 billion souls and their alien allies quietly prepared to inherit a galaxy where the greatest victory was simply being forgotten. The Devourers had moved on, leaving behind a universe they thought was empty. They had no idea that in the shadows they'd created, new civilizations were taking root, invisible, patient, and utterly determined to survive. Humanity had signed a peace treaty knowing it would fail. But in its failure, they had discovered something far more valuable than victory: the secret of eternal survival in a hostile universe. And that secret would spread, world by hidden world, until the galaxy itself became humanity's greatest hiding place.